I'm Cam, I'm a camera operator. I shoot conferences, commercials, documentaries, sports, that sort of thing. And I have not shot on a crop sensor camera in a very long time. I pretty much exclusively shoot full frame. Recently this year I became obsessed with wanting to do an EDC camera carry. The reason was because I stopped taking pictures, like at all, for fun. Like I just wouldn't shoot for fun ever. And I wanted to change that, so what I realized is when I would go on a trip, I'd take a really big rig and I'd want zooms and I'd want all this stuff that I would want during my regular work, but I would not use it. I would not pull it out of my bag. I didn't want to. It was heavy, it was clunky, I didn't want to deal with it. And I don't know about you guys, but if you're on a trip, the last thing that you want to go do is work and film. Like if you're shooting a corporate commercial, like you just don't want to do that. Now there's some people that like to walk around like Casey Neistat or something, but that wasn't something that I wanted to do at all. What I did is I got an A6700. This camera is really small, but it packs a huge punch. It uses the batteries I already have for all my Sonys. So it uses these bigger ones over the Tic Tacs. I don't like those Sony Tic Tacs. They're just really annoying to use and they die in like 3 seconds. So when I found out that the A6700 had used these batteries instead, honestly, that was like a huge reason I wanted this camera. It also has a bunch of fun features, like the camera will follow you if you're like doing like talking head sort of things, which I thought might be fun if I ever did vlog content. Mostly I got this camera for pictures. It has 24 megapixels and I knew that I would have a lot of fun with this. And it's light. When I was in New York, this fit in my coat pocket with the lenses that I looked at. I was trying out the 20mm Sony Pancake lens and the TT Artisan's 27mm. I think it's not, like you couldn't technically call it a pancake lens, but it's when you take off the cap, this is really small. This is a tiny profile. This in combination with the A6700 fits in your coat pocket easily. Or a small purse or a sling, so you don't have to worry too much about having this like huge thing. It's also really light. The other thing I liked about the A6700 is that in a scenario where I did want to do video with it, it does have 10-bit color, which is huge because if I'm gonna have a third camera, like I might as well have something that I could use as a third camera on a professional shoot. So that all kind of played into the decision for it. So then I got to digging. I was excited because I was going to be able to use my vintage lenses with this camera, which, not that I can't use them with my other cameras, but I wasn't ever going to take my vintage lenses to professional client work. Lenses have a lot of character and most of the time the clients just want something that is just looks good and looks clean, and they don't want swirly bokeh or any of that like nonsense. And a lot of vintage lenses don't match each other because they have like chromatic aberrations and stuff, so you want something that is just more clinical, like a standard zoom lens is what I use most of the time for most of my jobs. So then I got to searching and I really wanted small lenses, which since I hadn't looked at APS-C lenses in a long time, it opened up a lot of doors, and then these lenses are dirt cheap. This lens is, I think it was like $120. I'm gonna link everything in the description if you guys want to take a look for yourselves, but this lens was absurdly cheap. And this one was a little bit more expensive, but I got a used copy. I think it was like $250 for the used copy of this lens. So let's talk about which lens I ended up liking. I wanted to try to mimic the Fujifilm X100V. So I wanted something that was a still lens, so that put me on my personal favorite kind of like range to shoot in is around 35mm. So that put me I needed to find a lens that would fit, like do that before the crop. And that kind of put me in the 20mm range, so that's where I started looking. I also knew that 20mm lenses were going to be wider and they were going to be smaller, like just profile size, because it needed to fit in my pocket. I did not want to deal with zooms, and I wanted something that I could whip up, take a picture, put it back in my pocket. So these are the two lenses that I settled on. Now let's talk about each one and the things I like and don't like about them. Let's start with the TT Artisan. I actually love this thing. It's 2.8, which, you know, could be a little bit better. Like, I do wish it was like a 1.8 lens, but I don't know if the engineers or whatever can fit 1.8 into this tiny profile, because although 1.8 lenses I saw were a little bit bigger, which what I think I might do is maybe keep one of these and do a do a 35 or a 50 millimeter 1.8 so that I have the option to kind of exchange that. I do have the Sony full frame 1.8 50, but it's honestly like what I don't like about this lens is that it's a little bit tall. Like it's fine, but I wanted to try maybe the Viltrox or a couple other lenses as well. So back to the TT Artisan. I honestly love this thing. I think the pictures that came out of this were awesome. What I did not like, what I kind of feel like on the fence about is that there is heavy vignetting on this lens. That can easily be fixed in Lightroom, but it's still something that you need to be aware of that you would have to fix in your pictures. And it's heavy. It's pretty much every shot has vignetting, but in a lot of shots I feel like it works and I don't really mind it. And I honestly like the colors and the character that come out of this lens. Some people reported that they had problems with autofocus. I didn't really feel that, but the lens does come with a USB at the bottom, a USB-C, so you could update to the latest firmware if you're having issues with it. It also comes in a bunch of different mounts. Like honestly, this lens for $150 is like an absolutely insane value. I'm actually trying to decide which one of these to keep, which to keep the Pancake or to keep the TT Artisan, because I should probably just pick keeping one. The other thing I did not like is that since this one is 27 millimeters, I do kind of like sometimes wish that it was pulled back a little bit more. I feel like you just can't really complain that much because you're already getting so much with autofocus as well for 150 that I feel like it's not fair to just complain that much about it. But I do wish that this lens was 20 so that with the crop it like kind of became more of like a 35 over like a 50. Either way, this is a great option and I had a lot of fun with it. I'm gonna post some images. I mean, I've probably been posting images that I've taken with this lens, and to me it doesn't have, there's no clear defects on the image, and the only thing that I notice is the heavy vignetting, but that can be fixed in post if you even want to fix it, because honestly I think it works in a lot of shots. I think it looks great. So now let's talk about the 20 millimeter Pancake lens. The thing I like the most about this one is the form factor. It is absolutely tiny. When you put this onto the camera, it's basically like there's not even a lens there. It is very, very small. The thing that I don't like about this lens, it honestly has like no character at all. Like it kind of just feels clinical, but also it feels like just totally clinical, and the autofocus is a little bit better than the TT Artisan, but I don't know, I guess I'm on the fence because I just feel like this is such a big price tag. You could basically get the TT Artisan and another lens for the cost of this one. And while I do enjoy the pocketability, I don't like that the images look so clinical, because part of my thing was that I wanted the pictures to look a little bit different and a little bit cooler and to be able to mess around with different lenses. So I wasn't really going after like the more clinical look. Also, this lens does not have the vignetting issue, but it does have distortion like around the corners. I feel like the images kind of like pop out. I'm not too much of a photographer or whatever, so I don't know how to describe it, but there is heavy distortion on this lens, and I don't know, I'm just kind of on the fence about this one due to the price tag. But if you only want size and you want like the most pocketable lens, this is a great option. Again, I will link all of the different options below, but these are so far these are the lenses that I think are really great for being compact and pocketable and just, you know, being able to travel with them. And I'm excited to see what they come up with next. Like, I know another one that was recommended was the Rokinon, but I've had Rokinons before, and quite honestly, I just don't like the way they look. I do feel like unless they have fixed something about Rokinon, the autofocus is really bad, and there's tons of aberrations, at least in the ones I've owned in the past. So I'm not too keen on them, but maybe it's changed and they're a little bit better now. Other than that, I mean, I'd love any recommendations that you guys might have towards like travel lenses. My prerequisites are that I want it to maybe have a little bit of that vintage character so I don't want the pictures to look like my phone. Like, I want them to look more interesting even though I'm traveling. And autofocus is really nice as well, because when you're traveling, the whole point is that I want to be able to pull it out of my pocket, take a shot, and then put it back in. So that's a perk to me. I know some people are like, oh, if you use autofocus, you're not a true photographer. But that's not me. I think that autofocus is a great tool. And why would you not want to use it? There's obviously scenarios where you wouldn't use it, but like the autofocus haters are really weird to me. But leave your recommendations down below. But goal is to pocket, take it out, take picture, put it back in my pocket. That's my goal with the lenses. So that's the kind of thing that I'm looking at. And yeah, as you can see, if I put this 50 on here, like this is not pocketable. This is, now we're back at like regular camera. I want pocketable, pocket camera, jacket pocket, small purse, sling. Just, you know, I don't want like a giant camera because I already have to do that for gigs, and I don't want to do that when I'm on a trip. I just want it to fit in my pocket. But I also don't want to get like a GoPro because I don't know. I've never been too keen on the GoPros. I've tried to have one multiple times in my life, and I just end up not really using it that much. Don't really care for it.